Hey guys, and welcome to Cool Vision. In this video, we're going to be talking about New York City. Some call it the least American city. No wonder 55% of households don't have a car here. It's the most populous city in the U.S. with a population of 8.8 million and 20 million people living in the metro area. Let's learn more about New York. New York City is situated on a large natural harbor composed of 5 boroughs: the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, and of course, Manhattan. 2 blocks down and take a right. A block has a literal meaning here. All streets are perpendicular and form a grid. Only the southern tip of the island is knocked out of the clear geometry, where the streets don't form a grid. And Broadway, which runs diagonally across the island. The Commissioner's Plan of 1811 was the original design for the streets of Manhattan, which put in place the rectangular grid plan. Pretty convenient. The basic thing to remember is that avenues run north and south, while streets run east and west. Everything is so compact and congested that you don't notice how you cover large distances. Every new intersection brings something new and exciting. To better understand the city, let's take a quick look at its history. New York traces its origins to a trading post that was founded on the southern tip of Manhattan Island by Dutch colonists in 1624. They named it New Amsterdam. 40 years later, in 1664, it came under English control and was renamed New York, after King Charles II of England granted the lands to his brother, the Duke of York. Then comes Independence War and the signing of a peace treaty. British troops set sail for their homeland, and in 1785, New York became the capital of the United States for 5 years. The city is turning into a large industrial and financial center. Manhattan is being developed further up north, with giant bridges and the first skyscrapers. The New York Stock Exchange has overtaken the London one. Over the course of the 19th century, New York City's population grew from 60,000 to 3.4 million. In 1886, the main symbol of New York was erected on a small island near Manhattan, the Statue of Liberty. It was donated by France. Immigrants from all over Europe are flocking here: Italians, Irish, Jews, and Russians. New York became the largest city in the world by 1925. In 1952, it solidified its global geopolitical influence when the United Nations headquarters were completed. Let's take a look at the 5 boroughs, and let's start with Manhattan. Manhattan Island is divided into Lower Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan, and Uptown regions. Times Square is the main tourist destination in Midtown Manhattan, lit by its numerous billboards. It got its name in 1904, when the New York Times moved its headquarters to the then newly erected Times Building, now called One Times Square. A Times Square billboard today runs from $5,000 to $50,000 a day. This place is always super crowded day and night. But honestly, it's much more impressive at night. It's just fun sitting there and watching the people and all the ads running around. If you like large crowds and street performances, you're going to enjoy it. It lives up to its name, the city that never sleeps. Oh, by the way, see those ATVs? That's illegal. The NYPD continues to crack down on illegal dirt bikes and ATVs, having seized 565 of them in the last 3 months. But we'll talk about crime in New York later in this video. Now let's relocate to Central Park. It's the most famous city park in the world. It's a nice place to find some peace and serenity during the day. It is entirely man-made, and it has several artificial ponds, 2 ice rinks, and even a zoo. Yes, that same zoo from which animals escape in the movie Madagascar. We are in the heart of New York City. We're in Central Park, guys, and this is the most visited urban park in the United States. 42 million visitors a year. On top of that, it's the most popular location for filming movies, and that's why I'm filming my video here. Central Park has everything: street musicians, sports grounds, horse-drawn carriages, and even such unique historic monuments which you don't expect to find here, like the obelisk, also known as Cleopatra's Needle, that was brought from Egypt, and it's roughly 3,500 years old. There There's a wide variety of landscapes too, from meadows and woodlands to lawns, and there's always someone practicing yoga, meditating, or just reading books. We walked across the park from south to north and exited at the northern side, and this is where Harlem begins. An area with a rather dubious reputation. I know, people had been telling me it's fine, it's been gentrified, it's safe. In fact, the word gentrified is the most common word that I heard throughout my road trip in the U.S. There's no denying Harlem has improved, so you understand this is what it looked like in the 70s and the 80s. But even today, residents of East Harlem perceive crime as the biggest single concern. There are still many gangs in Harlem today. On a positive note, Harlem has been known for its jazz clubs, soul food, nightlife scene, and African American heritage. 125th Street is considered to be the main street of Harlem and is home to the Apollo Theater, a noted venue for African American performers where Stevie Wonder, Billie Holiday, Diana Ross, and other big names started their careers. In West Harlem, you will find the magnificent Cathedral Church of St. John the Divine on Amsterdam Avenue, as well as colleges and universities, including Columbia University, one of the most prestigious ones in the U.S. Okay, back to Central Park. There is something for everyone here, whether you're just going for a casual walk, picnicking, or jogging. There's no denying New Yorkers love their park. And squirrels do too. What's it like living in New York these days?
I think New York's a great place to live. It's, in some ways, sometimes maybe this sounds a little arrogant, but you feel like you're in the middle of the world, or the center of the world. Culturally, business, diversity. There's a lot to explore. Bad things about living in New York, it's kind of a hassle. It's very crowded, it's expensive, you deal with, it's dirty and things like that. But at the end of the day, I think it's worth it, and it's a nice place to live. And like many people, we moved to New York for our careers, to try to get ahead in life. That's why a lot of people come here. I work in finance, and she works in tech.
I work in tech.
Oh, cool. And so that's two of the big industries here. We live in a fairly small apartment, one bathroom, 5th floor walk up. We pay about $2,500 a month. That, I think, is considered pretty inexpensive for New York.
And I imagine you don't have a car.
Don't have a car, but I
want a car.
I want a car, yeah. I like cars a lot, but it's really hard to justify the expense.
I appreciate it, guys.
Hey, anytime.
We're in Central Park, New York City, and are you a local?
I wasn't born here, but I lived a lot of years here working as a photographer, actually.
Name 3 things you love about living in New York City.
Well, the whole world lives here, so that's number one. When you can't travel, you're in New York and you're meeting people from around the world, like the two of you. That's number one. Number 2 is it's part of the harbor. It's part of the ecosystem here. It's the estuary. You know, on good days you walk out or bike out to the Hudson River and you smell the ocean. And the third is, it's a cultural capital of the Western world. So.
The Big Apple's most famous street is the 5th Avenue. It crosses Manhattan from north to south, and it's one of the most expansive streets in the world. So many interesting things here. World's famous Apple Store, Trump Tower with BLM mural in front of it, Flatiron Building, St. Patrick's Cathedral, a gorgeous Catholic cathedral that was built in 1878, Empire State Building, and so much more. A section of 5th Avenue running from 34th to the 60th Street is a concentration of boutique shops and expensive high-end stores. This is where Audrey Hepburn freezes on the sidewalk and stares at the jewelry store window in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Now let's relocate to Lower Manhattan. This is the center of the financial universe known as Wall Street. Bankers and stock traders rush to their offices early in the morning. The city's security industry represents over 163,000 jobs with an average salary of $422,000 a year. Impressive. This is where you find headquarters of JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, and other financial giants. New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ, the world's largest stock exchanges, are both located here. This is a famous New York Stock Exchange. If you happen to own some American stock, this is where they're trading. I got some stocks, so I want to figure out what's going on. On Wall Street, you will find Trinity Church and Federal Hall. This is where in 1789, George Washington was officially proclaimed the first president of the United States. If you're bullish on the stocks, take a picture with the famous Charging Bull, a bronze sculpture which symbolizes the bullish market, financial optimism, and prosperity. Nearby, another statue, Fearless Girl, promoting female empowerment. To get great views of the lower Manhattan, just take a ferry. A lot of locals use it every day. It's very affordable and enjoyable. If you're looking for some awesome views of the city, you might want to check out the best observatories. First, the Empire State Building. It's a 102-story Art Deco skyscraper, which provides stunning panoramic views. It was the tallest building in the world from 1931 till 1970. From here you can see the Chrysler Building, considered by many to be one of New York's finest. Next, Top of the Rock, observatory on top of the Rockefeller Center, built by the Rockefellers in the 1930s. It has an ocean liner style design and offers a 360-degree view of the entire Manhattan. Third, the highest observation point, One World Trade Center, the tallest skyscraper in New York and all of the U.S., completely enclosed and with a 360-degree view. One of the new additions is the Edge, located at the Hudson Yards, that has an observation deck with a glass floor. Sadly, we didn't get a chance to visit because it was too foggy on that day. Also, at the Hudson Yards, you can visit the Vessel. It's a 16-story structure of connected staircases. Very cool shape, and it reminds me of a beehive. Another great idea to get great views is to take a funicular ride to Roosevelt Island. This small island is in the middle of the East River between the shores of Manhattan and Queens. Today it's just another residential part of the city. This is Queensboro Bridge, and we are in Roosevelt Island. And to get here, you can take a cable car, which is part of the public transportation system of New York City, and the fare is the same as it is for the subway, $2.75. So, interesting fact, during the British colonial rule, this whole island belonged to one family, the Blackwells, and it was called Blackwell Island. But today, it's just another residential neighborhood. But the most exciting thing for me was to take a helicopter ride. If you wonder how much it cost, it was $300 for 30 minutes. And what's cool about it is that helicopter had no doors. If you can afford it, go for it. First, I thought the ride would be shaky and all, but it turned out to be very smooth, like I was sitting in a car. On top of that, the city has over 50 rooftop bars, popular for romantic dates and celebrations. New York City is the third city in the world with the most amount of skyscrapers after Shenzhen and Hong Kong. And rooftop bars are really popular here. So you basically get an observation deck and the bar all in one package. Even if it ain't all it seems, I got a pocket full of dreams, baby. I'm from New York. Concrete jungle where dreams are made of. Let's take a look at some other parts of Manhattan. Greenwich Village, or just the Village. It's an upscale area that was once the center of Bohemian culture and various political movements, artists and writers. Rainbow flags attest to the neighborhood's LGBT-friendly vibe. At its heart is Washington Square Park. Musicians, skateboarders, dog owners, chess players, and NYU students all hang out around the historic fountain in the shadow of the arch, often used as a location in films and television shows. We are in Washington Square Park, which I thought was a very pleasant area to be in. We see a huge police presence over there on both sides, and I asked them what the deal is. I thought there was some kind of event going on, but they said it's a pretty rough area, especially at night, which is very unexpected. New York is full of surprising places. Like, if you're a fan of Sex and the City, this is where Carrie Bradshaw used to live, and she was running down the stairs to catch a taxi.
Hello, Breezy. It's good to see you, everybody. Hello, everybody. Good to see you.
I saw some NYU students protesting, and I wanted to know what their demands were. So let's go and talk to them.
So the graduate workers at NYU are on strike right now, and they're demanding fair compensation, better health care, and getting cops and ICE, immigration officers off campus to protect international and immigrant students.
Soho, Since the 20th century, Soho has been the location of many art galleries. Today, it's an affluent area with cobblestone streets and elegant cast iron facades, designer boutiques, and high-end art galleries. It's a top shopping and nightlife destination. Directly from Soho, you will find Chinatown and Little Italy. Manhattan's Chinatown feels like real China, with its numerous greengrocers and fishmongers, tea rooms, and dim sum parlors. Since 1850, this area has been inhabited by immigrants from China. Today, New York has the largest population of Asians, more than San Francisco and Los Angeles combined. Being a minority, they're doing pretty well for themselves. How's that? The secret is a hard work ethic. These areas also have a higher rate of college-educated residents and lower crime rates. How do you like living here?
It's okay for me, but my wife and my son, they love it.
They love it?
For me, I don't like myself. Too crowded.
What should I try?
I think I like beef and
Beef? Yeah. Okay.
it's stomach. I don't like it.
Stomach, you don't like it? They have a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Chicken feet, all of that. That's good. We are in Chinatown, and we're going to try something that I tried in Taiwan, and that is bubble tea. So let's dip in. I wanted to order some bubble tea. Nearby, you'll find Little Italy. When Italian immigrants started moving to this Manhattan neighborhood in the late 1800s, they brought their customs, food, and language. Today, however, it's nothing like what it used to be. It's become very touristy and has changed significantly under the influence of Chinatown.
I'm leaving today.
Guys, the famous Umbrellas Clam House. Full delicious. Are you hungry? I'm Italian. Chelsea's Manhattan's art district that mixes a variety of architectural styles, from elegant 19th century townhouses to housing projects. It's known for having a large LGBTQ population, with one of Chelsea's census tracts reporting that 22% of its residents were gay couples. If you get hungry, go to Chelsea Market. We have come to Chelsea Market to have something to eat. This is a wonderful place, lots of choices. And from what I've learned, it used to be a factory where Oreos were invented in 1912. So let's go check it out. Well, of course I got a bowl of chili. You know, from a time in the South, I learned to really love this dish. So chili soup is, for me, the best choice. Tribeca. Once home to industrial warehouses, Tribeca is now the city's richest zip code, with an average income of $879,000 a year and a median home price of $3.8 million. Even Jay-Z once purchased a penthouse here for $6.8 million after he traded Brooklyn for Manhattan. Yeah, I'm at the Brooklyn. Now I'm down in Tribeca, right next to De Niro, but I'll be hood forever. Really? Why'd you move then, Jay? Tribeca has it all. Elegant townhouses and modern high-rises, trendy restaurants, and a spectacular view of the Hudson River on its western border. And finally, Billionaires Row. It's a set of super tall luxury towers on the southern edge of Central Park. The cheapest condo here goes for $3 million, and the most expensive units are north of $60 million. What are the downsides of Manhattan? Well, let me just say there are a lot of homeless people. As of January 2020, New York had an estimated 91,000 people experiencing homelessness on any given day, according to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. While most of them are peaceful, random attacks are happening way too often.
Sir, excuse me, I said. Sir!
During my stay, 2 girls from Russia were attacked and robbed by some crazy homeless person. Another complaint is the bad smells, and yes, that includes marijuana. It's everywhere. You can't really escape it because there's going to be someone walking in front of you who starts smoking, and it's really annoying for someone who's not a pothead like me. Locals don't seem to be noticing any of those problems. In fact, many of them just put on headphones pretending they're too busy to be bothered with anything else. I've really seen some ugly stuff, like a guy urinating into a bottle in the middle of the street. Piles of, don't get me started, okay? I think there's things that should not be happening in a place that claims to be the world capital. Also, The city seems to be constantly in the process of renovation. Scaffolding is everywhere. Some say companies just install scaffolding on purpose to make sure nothing falls on anybody's head and thus protecting themselves from a potential lawsuit. What about garbage? The garbage collection system is set up in a way that huge garbage bags are piled on the sidewalks, waiting to be collected. And sometimes these piles get really big. They have to do it this way because Manhattan does not have courtyards, and they only get collected several times a week. Garbage bags can really pile up at the end of the week. You know, there's one pile, another pile is almost blocking the entrance to this building. Manhattan is full of contrast. $2 hot dog stands stay side by side with expensive boutiques on Fifth Avenue. Extremely wealthy people are walking the same streets as the homeless. Some people might get the impression that Manhattan only has Central Park and the rest is nothing but a concrete jungle. But it's not like that. There are green areas scattered all throughout the island, like Bryant Park, located next to the New York Public Library main branch. It has a huge lawn where people are reading newspapers, playing ping pong, chess, and backgammon. In the winter, it will have a skating rink here. Another great park is Madison Square Park. It's located at the intersection of Broadway and the Fifth Avenue, overlooking the Flatiron Building. It's a great place to unwind and enjoy a gelato on a hot summer day or a cup of coffee in the fall. One of the most exciting additions to the city is the High Line. It was created in 2009 and it's a 1.4-mile long elevated greenway. It's a unique walkway with spectacular views on the old rail of Manhattan. If you guys are looking for some green space in New York City and some architectural inspirations, then look no further than the High Line that you're really going to enjoy. I find it to be a great example of repurposing old industrial areas to something enjoyable for everyone. Right next to it, you'll find Little Island, located right on the Hudson River. It covers 2.4 acres and is supported by 132 pod-shaped structures called tulips, suspended above the water, featuring shows at a waterslide amphitheater. It's a perfect place to unwind, walk around, explore, and listen to some live music. Let's see what it's like.
You do it. Get up. Get up. Get up. Get up.
Ready for the space. Sands of bug got me in the space. Comfortable to kiss your face. Living up under your arms. Light is shining car. I'm looking at you. The light is blue. You got a view of the stars.
Roads in New York City are far from perfect, a lot worse than in the rest of the U.S. In the U.S. generally, you can't do without a car, but New York is an exception. More than 55% of New Yorkers do not have a car. Almost everyone told me not to drive here, and that's why I wanted to do it. I had a rental car, and I wanted to know what it's like being a driver here. Street parking in New York is a matter of luck. Most of the time, your surest bet is a parking garage. Day parking can be as high as $60, and this is what parking looks like in Manhattan.
So how much is it?
And if you forgot to pay for parking, the ticket can be hefty. A guy who parked next to me received a $120 fine because his parking time expired. Owning a car in New York City is no joke, and especially when it comes to parking. Let's take a look at the price. $550 a month. That's just to park a car. And don't forget about all the tolls going in and out of Manhattan, and they can be as high as $16 one way if you don't have an Easy card, which I did. Manhattan is an island, and therefore there are many bridges and tunnels, like Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, and George Washington Bridge, which connects New York with the state of New Jersey. The Lincoln Tunnel, which carries 120,000 vehicles a day, is the busiest car tunnel in the world. New York is a pretty walkable city thanks to its grid pattern layout, but it's also quite bike friendly with more than 1,200 miles of bike lanes and routes. In New York, you also got to watch out not just for the cars, but also for the cyclists. Man, they're so fast and they appear out of nowhere. Like here you can see them, but sometimes you just can't. They can knock you over, you know. When it comes to public transportation, New York City Subway is the largest single operator rapid transit system worldwide, with 472 rail stations. It's open 24/7, which is not something you find in other major cities. It's the busiest metropolitan rail transit system in the Western Hemisphere, with 1.7 billion passenger rides in 2015, while Grand Central Terminal, also referred to as Grand Central Station, is the world's largest railway station by number of train platforms. The downside of New York subway is that it's not the cleanest and not the safest. In 2020 alone, there were over 600 robberies, 6 murders, 7 rapes, and that's not to mention countless stabbings and people getting pushed into the rails. I don't understand why they can't just install platform screen doors like they do in other countries. Here's a little tip. When you're traveling in Manhattan, before you enter a subway station, look if it says uptown or downtown. This way you know if that's the right one. Also, you don't have to buy those confusing Metro cards anymore because you can just tap your credit card when you enter, and that's so much more convenient. The most beautiful subway station is the World Trade Center station, designed by architect Santiago Calatrava. From outside, the structure is known as the Oculus, and it looks futuristic, and it reminded me of the whale skeleton.
And it's a magnificent structure resembling some kind of an animal, maybe like a whale. It took so many years to build, and it also got a lot of criticism from the locals because it cost the city a whopping $3.9 billion when the original cost was supposed to be $2 billion.
Nearby, there is a memorial to 9/11 tragedy. It's a forest of white oak trees with 2 square pools in the center, marking where the Twin Towers stood. While the World Trade Center Memorial speaks of the past and remembrance, One World Trade Center speaks about the future and hope. It was first named Freedom Tower, and I wish they kept this name. Today, it's the tallest skyscraper in the U.S. and the 6th tallest building in the world by pinnacle height. The building's architect is David Childs, who also designed the Burj Khalifa and the Willis Tower. A section of Fifth Avenue alongside Central Park is known as Museum Mile. Metropolitan Museum of Art, or MED for short, is the most visited museum in the United States. It was founded in 1870. It's enormous and comprehensive, and I imagine it would take days to see everything. My second favorite museum is American Museum of Natural History. Now that's another museum that I can visit more than once. There is so much to see. The planetarium, marine life, skeletons of huge dinosaurs. This kind of stuff is very interesting for me. Another iconic museum is Solomon Guggenheim Museum. From the outside, it looks spectacular, but that was pretty much all that was interesting. Most galleries were closed at the time of the visit, and the ones that were open, well, I wasn't impressed. Well, let me just say I didn't get it, okay? Another iconic museum is MoMA, Museum of Modern Art. Beautiful works of art displayed, ranging from painting, large sculptures, photography, cars, and contemporary art. It was laid out well and had some cool installations. Definitely worth a visit. Some museums were totally disappointing though, like Museum of History of New York. It's not about the history of New York. Sadly, some museums are no longer impartial.
We just visited the Museum of the City of New York, and I had high expectations. I wanted to see some video footage of how they were building the skyscrapers in the Central Park, all that good stuff. Now, what I saw was some information about global warming all of a sudden.
New York is action-packed, and every night there's a lot of things to do. That's the beauty of it. It never gets boring. You can go to a jazz club or comedy show. We went to this comedy show for $8 a ticket, and it was fun. And of course, don't miss the famous Broadway shows and musicals, like Phantom of the Opera, Cats, The Lion King, and many others.
My name is Andrew McCaslin. I live in New York City.
Corey Hamilton. I'm originally from Rochester, New York.
Would you mind naming 3 things you love about living in New York City?
We love the diversity. It's a the nightlife. It's a very international city. The food is great. The nightlife is great.
To pick like 3 things you don't like so much about living here, what would that be?
The noise can be noisy. People can be aggressive sometimes, probably because there's 8.4 million people that live here, and maybe the garbage in the streets.
That's right. 3 spots, your favorite spots in the city.
Okay, so I recommend if you like a nice rooftop lounge, Le Bain at the Standard Hotel in Meatpacking, that's downtown. And there's also the PhD in the Dream Hotel.
Central Park, too.
Central Park, you got the Highline Walk, you can walk up the vessel, whatnot.
Now,
Thank
No
you.
problem. Take care. So much fun.
When I think about traditional New York City food, I think about pizza. So make sure you try some real New York City pizza.
Welcome to Bleecker Street Pizza. This is our famous Nonna Maria. That's what we are known for. It's fresh basil, fresh mozzarella, Reggiano Parmigiano, and olive oil. We've been here since about 16 years now, and we started off with Doug Greenwood, my uncle, who's a retired captain, NYPD, and his dream was to have a pizzeria. So after 9/11, he decided to open up this place, and we've been doing it ever since.
Besides pizza, you gotta try bagels, hot dogs, and baked pretzels.
All right, let's start the morning like a true New Yorker, right? Sausage, eggs, and the bagel. It doesn't get better than that.
Okay, enough of Manhattan. Now let's drive to Brooklyn over the Brooklyn Bridge. It is New York's most populated borough with a population of 2.5 million. Downtown Brooklyn is the third largest central business district in New York after Midtown and Lower Manhattan. However, it is considered to be one of the least safe neighborhoods, and there's really not much to do here, so you might as well skip it. Dumbo. This area was originally a fairyland with industrial and warehouse buildings. It was bought up and remade into an upscale residential and commercial community, becoming a haven for art galleries and currently a center for technology startups. Dumbo was featured prominently in the Sergio Leone drama film Once Upon a Time in America as the location for many of its scenes. Lush green lawns, plenty of sitting, and miles of walking and running trails.
This is what's called Jane's Carousel, and it was built in 1922. It was recently restored, and it's supposed to be open soon. Just imagine this carousel is almost 100 years old.
Williamsburg, another hip neighborhood in Brooklyn. With a steady growth in gentrification, former warehouses and factories have been repurposed, and now it draws the young fashionable crowd to its fancy boutiques, trendy cafes, and restaurants, while the waterfront provides stunning views of Manhattan. Nearby, Domino Park, which spans a quarter-mile along the East River near the Williamsburg Bridge.
We are in Domino Park, which is in Williamsburg, which is in Brooklyn, and you can get this iconic view if you come to Domino Park.
Here you'll find children's playgrounds, volleyball courts, and an elevated walkway that extends much of the length of the park, resembling the interior of the oil refinery. New York City is a city of hundreds of different languages and a variety of communities. Yes, it's a melting pot, but only to a certain extent. Most of its neighborhoods are dominated by a certain ethnicity. You know, it makes sense because people love to be around other people that share a similar cultural background. Let's visit a Jewish area in Brooklyn called Borough Park. First thing you notice is the abundance of young mothers with strollers. The fertility rate for Orthodox Jews is one of the highest in the world, an average of 6.5 children per woman. For comparison, in Europe, it's 1.6. Let's talk to some locals.
What part of town are we in?
You're in the Borough Park section of Brooklyn.
And what's it famous for?
Jewish neighborhood.
What is it that you like mostly about living here?
Well, it's the community. We're tight-knit, we're friendly to each other, we know each other. And it's also that it's pretty much has been home for the past 50, 60 years. This is more outdoor wear. And this is inside because Jewish men, the Torah-observant Jewish men always wear something to show that sort of deference to God.
Okay, and women, they have to wear this black.
Married women, they cover their hair.
You go to synagogue every Sunday or
No, every day. Every day. Saturday the services are longer because that's our day of rest.
every day you go to pray?
Jewish males, Jewish men and boys over 13 pray 3 times a day.
I'm Russian, so obviously I had to visit the Russian-speaking community, known as Brighton Beach. It's in the southern part of Brooklyn. There's a nice 5-kilometer long boardwalk running along the sandy beach. It's a very peaceful and quiet area.
We have come to Brighton Beach, which is a district in Brooklyn and is famous as a Russian-speaking community that's been here since 1970s. Now, it feels weird to be surrounded by people speaking Russian when you're in America.
Если так пройтись, посмотрите, наверное, 90% все русскоязычные. Живется вроде здесь неплохо. Здесь поменялось как бы население. Ну, говорят, 20-25 лет назад здесь было чуть похуже, да, здесь было чуть неспокойно. Ну, из-за того, что как бы население поменялось, уже разные люди живут, бывшие с наших стран. А они, наши, сами понимаете, более законопослушные, и они как бы живут честненько, скажем. в такси, желтое такси, да. Сейчас очень большое население, ну, ребята очень многие вышли на траки, то есть на дальнобойщики, да. Если так взять на скидку, уборщики там от 1500 до 2500 могут заработать в неделю, а тракисты как минимум 2000 зарабатывают в неделю, да, и больше.
Как вас зовут?
Меня зовут Даниэль.
Brighton Beach is directly connected to Coney Island, which was once the largest entertainment center in the United States. It is now a residential area and is home to the largest Arab diaspora in New York. Although the rides at the local Luna Park are a bit dated, every summer locals and tourists flock to the beach. Moving on, Queens is the largest borough of New York by area, and it has a population of 2.3 million. It has the second largest Chinatown in Flushing Quarter. Flushing offers a good standard of living with restaurants, inexpensive shopping, and convenient transportation.
你好，你好。So my question is, why are there so many Asian people in this part of Queens?
Because people like living here, like so convenient. It looks like in China.
Oh, okay.
Call it Chinatown.
Feels like Chinatown.
They can buy the Chinese food here, Chinese store here, and doctor here.
Is this area, this neighborhood safe to live?
Now, not to say, now we worry about nighttime. We're not going to go out.
Nighttime not safe, but during daytime is okay.
Daytime is okay.
Okay. All right.
Nighttime we scare too many now.
There's been a lot of residential construction here. My friend Addie lives in this modern apartment complex and he rents a 2-bedroom apartment here for $3,300 a month. This might seem expensive, but it comes with a swimming pool, a few tennis courts, and it's only 30 minutes away from Manhattan by subway. Queens is also the site of Citi Field, the baseball stadium of the New York Mets. 2 of the 3 busiest airports serving New York metropolitan area, JFK and LaGuardia, are also located in Queens. The Bronx is the 3rd largest district in New York with a population of 1.5 million. Parts of the Bronx saw a decline in population, livable housing, and quality of life in the late 1960s, culminating in a wave of arson in the late 1970s. The South Bronx in particular experienced severe urban decay. The Bronx is the birthplace of hip-hop music and culture. It is also the home of the New York Yankees baseball team and their home field Yankee Stadium. The famous Joker Stairs are also here. Staten Island is the least populated of the boroughs, and it is home to 500,000 New Yorkers. It's the most remote borough from Manhattan, more reminiscent of the American small towns, but is sometimes called a forgotten borough. How dangerous is New York? Not as bad as some other American cities, but also pretty dangerous. Recently, the city has been experiencing a surge in crime. I mean, at the time we were in the city, 3 innocent bystanders got shot in Times Square by some lunatic. Let's take a look at the city crime map. The boroughs of Manhattan and Staten Island have historically had lower crime rates, and the Bronx, on the other hand, has consistently had the highest homicide rate. NYPD Detectives Union recently blamed lefty Democrats for a New York City crime wave, saying, quote, dangerous policies like immediate release are putting violent suspects back into the streets within hours of committing the crime. When I try to interview cops, they just laughed. But off the record, they were saying the same things, that too many criminals get released as soon as they're caught. It's no surprise that living in New York City is expensive. Rent prices here are 37% higher than in Los Angeles and almost 80% higher than in Chicago. Manhattan's average rental cost is $4,200 with an average apartment size of 700 square feet. And Brooklyn's average rental cost is $2,900 and average apartment size is 651 square feet. Needless to say, New York real estate is a magnet for wealthy people. So there's no shortage of fancy mansions outside of the city. Buyers come from all over the world, China, Russia, and other countries where freedom has been jeopardized. Some of these neighborhoods don't even feel American anymore. Weird, right? I visited one of those neighborhoods. Famous Russian TV host just recently bought a mansion here for $7 million. What's outside of New York City? Few people visiting the city ever get a chance to get away from it. That's a shame. Just an hour's drive away, you can find yourself surrounded by mountains and beautiful nature. National parks, lakes, vineyards, apple orchards, and golf courses. There are plenty of places to go to. Hudson Valley is one of them. It's a popular weekend getaway. Not a lot of people know that New York enjoys a warm and humid subtropical climate, similar to that of Rome, Italy.
Just an hour and a half away, you end up in a place like this. This is called Bear Mountain. And here you can do hiking. To the top and back is 3 hours. You can make a picnic, and there's plenty of places to go swimming in this area.
So, what makes New York City a great place to live? While there are a lot of downsides, there's no other city in the world with the same level of energy. The fast-paced, the buzzing traffic, crowds of people, you never run out of things to do. Different foods to try, places to visit, or people to meet. New York offers a lot of opportunities for the ambitious, hardworking, and creative people who want to succeed in finance, fashion, and other industries. They say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And it's true. The sky's the limit. New York has more billionaires than any other city in the world. There were 99 billionaires living here in 2021. The city has been shaped by different waves of immigrants, but even today it is home to more than 3.2 million residents born outside the United States, the largest foreign-born population of any city in the world. Let me know what you think about New York City, and I'll see you in my next video.